babes. It's me, your favorite funeral home siren, embalmer of weird facts, and lifelong collector of morbid curiosity. So, I've been thinking about something lately. What happened to the bodies on the Titanic? Do you ever get late night thoughts like that? Just me? Well, anyways, I'm not talking the romance. I'm not talking the movie magic. I mean the real aftermath. The part that no one talks about. The part after the freezing, after the sinking, after the screaming stopped. What do you do when 1,500 people die in the middle of the ocean and no one's coming to save them? Where do they go? Do they float? Sink? Do sharks eat them? Were they embalmed? Buried? Forgotten? You might have never thought about it, but now you're here. And now you can't not know. So grab a drink, sit down, and maybe don't eat during this one, because today we're diving into body recovery at sea, embalming, forensic chaos, and a whole lot of haunting maritime history. Some went down with the ship, others froze in the water, life jackets bobbing in the moonlight, and most, they vanished into black, frigid sea. But a few days later, another ship retrofitted into a floating morgue. It sailed out from Halifax, loaded with everything you'd need for a grim, salt-soaked recovery mission. The bodies, they came faster than the supplies. More dead than coffins, more corpses than chemicals. So they had to make a decision, and not a fair one. Who comes home and who gets the sea? They looked at what you were wearing. Did you have a watch chain? A monogrammed sleeve? Were your shoes expensive? They weren't just trying to identify you. They were trying to figure out if someone would pay for your body to be brought back. You didn't need a name, just enough status to suggest someone important might be looking for you. Even in death, the rich had a better ride.
But that was the class system back then. So
I was really shocked to learn that. I figured you might be too. So we've got a ship, we've got limited supplies, we've got too many bodies, and a gruesome decision-making system. So now what? They got to work. Body by body. Some corpses were missing faces, peeled away by the salt and sea creatures. Others were eerily pristine, still dressed in their Sunday best. Each one was lifted onto the deck, tagged, logged, and prepared. Every body got a number. Clothes, jewelry, personal items, logged, tagged, and bagged. They even photographed unidentified bodies for later comparison. In that freezing wind with a notebook, writing down every watch, every pair of shoes, every lock of hair on every bloated body. Not one disappeared quietly, not on Arthur's watch. This system that they came up with is still taught in forensic response today. The Barnstead turned tragedy into dignity, one tag at a time. So what happened to the bodies afterward? Out of the 337 recovered, 116 were buried at sea. 209 of them were brought to Halifax, processed at the Mayflower Curling Rink. Priest Reverend Canon Hind performed burials at sea, and in Halifax, when the ship came in, local undertakers took over. Have you ever wondered where they buried all of the dead that they were able to recover and bring back? I wondered, and they buried them at Fairview Lawn Cemetery. 121 of them went there. Mount Olivet, 19 Catholic burials. Baron de Hirsch, 10 Jewish burials. Ma'am, I'm trying to talk about death here. Some families claimed bodies, but most didn't. But every single one was documented by the Barnsteads. So really quickly, through this research, I ended up finding out about a body named Body Number 4. And I want to talk to you about him because that is how he was listed. Not little boy, not toddler. He was just a number. They found him floating alone, still in his tiny gray coat and shoes, blonde hair, no name. No one came forward to claim him. He was one of the first bodies pulled from the water. So early, in fact, they were still numbering them as they went, and he was the 4th body recovered. Before the embalming triage, before the tagging system was even fully running, just a small child cataloged like cargo. But he broke the sailors. The hardened, sea-weathered crew of the McKay Bennett was so moved by his tiny form, they pooled their own money together to pay for his funeral. They gave him a proper burial and a headstone that read, "Erected to the memory of an unknown child whose remains were recovered after the disaster to the Titanic." And for almost a century, that's all anyone knew. But in 2007, science did what the ocean couldn't erase. DNA testing confirmed his identity. His name is Sidney Leslie Goodwin, and he was just 19 months old. From a large English family, and all of them died in the sinking, and he was the only one ever found. Because most were never found, which brings us to the question I get asked all the time, especially since the wreck was discovered in 1985. Are there still bodies inside the Titanic? Let's dive into that literally right now. No. Nope, not a single one. What they found instead, pairs of shoes, empty boots, outfits still lying side by side in the mud like invisible ghosts wearing invisible people. Bodies disintegrate in salt water over time. Even bones dissolve after decades on the seafloor. The deep ocean is dark, cold, and acidic, and it doesn't preserve, it literally erases. So no, there are no skeletons, no dinner guests still seated at the Titanic, just absence and shoes. No, the Titanic didn't implode. It didn't sink deep enough, fast enough, or under enough pressure to crush like a soda can. It broke on the surface, split in half from structural strain. The back end crashed down like an elevator. So people didn't die from pressure. They died from cold and drowning. The Titan sub, different story entirely. Rapid descent, structural failure, extreme pressure, boom, implosion. So no, Titanic didn't go boom, no boom, but she still went down hard. If you want to see it, take a sub. You want to touch it, you better bring a lawyer, maybe a priest, and have your stuff pre-planned out, please, for the love of God. So let's bust some myths. Myth number 1, are there skeletons in the wreck? Nope, only shoes. Myth number 2, bodies preserved in ice? Wrong century, ice didn't last, but water always wins. Myth number 3, everyone is dressed in gowns and tuxes. Some were. Most of them had some sort of clothing on unless they got to a state of hypothermia where they were ripping their clothing off. Most were in pajamas or life vests or nothing. Myth number 4, embalming equals perfect presentation. No, nope. Arteries only, no cavity injection, no suction. We're talking a very light preservation, but not museum display worthy. The movie gave you romance. I gave you a mortuary field guide to deep sea death, and I hope you enjoyed it because I sure did. The Titanic equals overconfident rich men ignoring safety warnings. Ocean Gate is the same, but with billionaires and a carbon fiber Pringles can. Different technology, same hubris, and the ocean still undefeated. So what happened to the bodies? Some floated, some sank. Some were embalmed, but most disappeared. But every one of them had a name, a story, and a heartbeat. So thank you for sailing into the deep with me. Remember, next time you hear someone say, they all died in the movie, you can tell them, yeah, but that was just the beginning.